Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Afternoon Tune. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm doing a special interview today. I'm going to be interviewing stunt performer Daniel Himschoot. How's it going there, Daniel?
Going very good. Just chilling as I always do.
Very nice. Daniel was very, very gracious to take this interview. I really appreciate that from him. He's in Romania right now, so it's really late for him. So I'm glad he was able to be doing this interview with me and made time out of his day to do it. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. So I got in contact with Daniel because he's been a recent stunt performer on a show called Warrior, which we did a review for. A review that actually is on our YouTube channel right now. If you go on youtube.com, the afternoon tune, we did a review for Warrior season 3. So it's one of the more recent projects that Daniel has worked on. But he's got a good resume. He's worked on a lot of other different movies and shows. But I'll let Daniel kind of explain that, introduce himself, and everything about him. So if Daniel wants to do that.
Yeah, so basically I have been a stunt performer as pretty much my permanent profession throughout. So I've done this since the age of about 17, but prior to that I'd been working at different crafts. But yeah, as a stunt performer, I've been working about since the age of 17 up until the age now of 31. And yeah, I've worked on various different projects. So I'm sure we will talk about them coming up. And yeah, I like to share a bit of knowledge also about the industry and about whether it be a stunt performer, actor, anything within the industry. I do like to share a little bit of that. So yeah, that's why I was very keen for the interview, at least.
Yeah. So you started at 17. How old are you now? So
31.
you've been working in basically over a decade. You've been doing stunt
Yeah,
performance, stunt work.
I've been a stunt performer working in various things, Hollywood, Bollywood, traveling around everywhere,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. You mentioned Bollywood. I looked on your resume. So that's how you got involved in RRR. There, I looked and I saw that on your resume there too.
Surprised that people know about it actually, but it did become a huge hit actually in India and also won a lot of awards. That was I tell you one thing, working in India is a challenge in its own. I love the country. I've really grown to love the people, love the country. Working there presents its own challenges, but it is still a very interesting place to work, if I can say that.
Okay. Yeah, you got, like I said, got a good resume here, a lot of great movies. So some of the movies that you worked on Mad Max Fury Road. I'm a big fan of that movie as well as something like RRR. I'd say that's really great. Chronicle was one that you worked on. I'm a big fan of that movie as well.
Yeah,
Uh, oh, yeah. And then you've also done some TV shows too. You did the show called recently Wednesday, which was the Netflix show about Wednesday Adams. You were part of that show as well. I know this. Don't want you to do too much promotion for the stuff because I know there's the actor strike going on right now. I
yeah.
know that's a big gray area right now. So I don't want you to do too much promotion there. But yeah, so you got a good long resume here. And you said you've done a lot of traveling so far. So it's this stunt work is basically taking you all over the world.
Yeah, I think as a stunt performer, you create a base in sort of your hometown, and you build up over quite a bit of time. I'd say a minimum of 5 years is just to get into the industry and to start creating a name, a reputation, all of that kind of thing for yourself. Um, Once you kind of there and with the people you connect with and that, traveling is a big part of stunt work as well. And yeah, I got to say it's quite enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. It's nice being able to see other places of the world, and also more particularly seeing how other people work in other areas of the world, because every country has their own unique aspects of how their industry works, how the people are, and I think always keeping fresh and getting to uh, indulge basically in other people's cultures, I think is part of the fun aspect of this job, because it is a very social job.
Yeah. So how would you compare stunt work in Bollywood to stunt work in Hollywood?
Or um, it's yeah, it's a bit of a funny question to me, because the in Hollywood, when you work on certain movies or series, whether it be through platforms like Netflix or things like that, when you work through their movies, there is a very strict hierarchy and a certain way that everything kind of runs. And there's a lot more information that gets handed down from the person that is your boss, as such. Whereas in India, I feel there's a lot more freedom for creativity, if I can call it that. The instructions are a lot less. The organization might seem a little all over the place, but there's one thing that happens there, is that everything gets done. No matter what you're looking at, no matter how chaotic the experience looks at, it gets done, and it gets done well.
Mm,
So there are those differences.
okay. And that was going to be one of my questions. When you're doing kind of stunt performance, is there room for much improvisation there on the set of what you do? So is that something that is, improvising? Is that something that's usually kind of common in stunt performance, or usually it's like a set thing that you have to do?
I like your question. Firstly, I think it's a very nice way to look at it. So, like with actors, you get a script and you get dialogue and you get lines, and this is what you need to perform, because the camera's going to go on and you need to perform it. With stunts, we get the same thing. It's we choreograph everything to an absolute finite point, so that the minute action kicks off, everyone knows exactly what's happening. But as you know, in life, and particularly if you do things like extreme sports and that, not everything always goes according to plan. So there is a very big aspect of just basically coming up with things on the spot, as well as basically as long as you take the scene into account and you following along to the guidelines, you have full creative rights to do things the way you want to. Hence, what would I would say separate a good stunt performer from just someone who performs a stunt, because we get the direction, okay, fall here, hit your head here, do this, shoot this person, do, but it's how you interpret it and how you act it and feel it that really it changes that. And that's what I think gives the audience to feel, such as in Warrior, for instance, where, so one of the really fun scenes I did was where I was fighting the character Leary in the bar. He was taking on a couple of hitmen basically that were after him, and they had this intense scene where they took me and sort of smashed my teeth into the bar, and then started smashing me, and then still hit me again, and it was a very brutal scene.
Yeah.
Now you get told, okay, cool, this is, well, we technically made it ourselves. I do a lot of choreography ourselves, and with Warrior there was a lot of input, particularly from Brett Chan, choreographed almost everything that you see. But there is part for us to be creative as the performers, and we present him with a bunch of options, and the ones that he likes, get into the movie. Now, in this case, the brutality of the scene required us to go out of the box and to think really a little bit crazy. And in that scene, you get to see all these sort of violent things, which to be honest, the thing about stunt performing is, yeah, it's fake, right? It's like wrestling. It's fake. The difference being that there's a lot of real that actually goes into that fake. And that's something I think a lot of people disregard from stunt performing, because they see it like wrestling, where you go look at wrestlers and you're like, oh, but they just, they're not actually doing anything. It's all fine. But in the reality of it, we do really put our bodies on the line, and we bruise and bleed the same as everyone else. We just choose to do it as a job for passion instead of, you know, for no reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that bit of difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that a lot of people with wrestling, I know in the wrestling community, they don't like the F word. They don't like fake. They say it's choreographed. I don't think, yeah, they go always it's choreographed. They don't like the F word, they say. Yeah, but I have, yeah, immense amount of respect for stunt performers. Do you think that stunt performers get a lot of respect? Do you think it in Hollywood in general? Do you think it's kind of lesser or?
I have found, so only in the recent years have stunts been considered part of the Emmys and the Oscars and things like that. We actually have a whole separate award ceremony called the Taurus Awards,
Okay.
which most people won't actually know about, but it's hosted in LA. I was invited for Mad Max because of my work, doubling Nicholas Holtz and working on that movie. And it's a separate award ceremony that I do feel is kept a little bit separate from the general Hollywood thing. But now, with people talking out a lot more, the Oscars and Emmys are starting to take into consideration that we're actually an integral part of movies, where you can look at your actors and everything, which in no way diminish that, because that job is really hard. Because I do act a bit of acting on the side as well and everything, and it's not super easy. Um, but movies are not made without their doubles and without their other stunt performers to make sure that your hero always looks the way they do and are kept safe to be able to shoot the entire movie. Because if they were doing the things we do, there's a big chance that, oh, they get injured, and then what do you do for the movie? You've spent all the money, you've done everything, but now your actor's injured. So I think for us, the biggest thing is that we like to see actors that acknowledge they use stunt doubles and things, as opposed to people who say that they are do it all themselves. Because the reality is, actors really don't do it all themselves, and they need guidance and they need training. And particularly with the training side of things, that's something where I've grown more passion for in my life, where I enjoy training the actors. I often get assigned certain actors or things for hours of a day, and I have to train them in a specific scene or a skill or something like that. And, I think we should never diminish from what the stunt performers are doing, not only to help the actors do the best so they can perform it, but also we do a lot of the hard work in the background.
Hmm. Do you think the rise in kind of maybe respect of stunt performers, because now you see some stunt performers, get, kind of get more behind the camera in terms of directing and then in front of the camera performing. I mean, even with, the show that you did recent work for Warrior, Andrew Koji, the star of the show, he was a stunt performer before.
Yeah.
Now he's the lead in the show. And then like with John Wick, the two directors from that movie, they used to be former stunt performers. So do you think that also attributes to it?
Yes. So there's different paths you can go down as a stunt performer, and like Andrew Koji, he went with the acting side, but having that extra backup skill of being able to go, well, I can actually still do the physical stunts, is a huge advantage to actors. Um, it saves a lot of time, a lot of work, because a lot of the time people that get cast for action roles are not actually very good at action. So it helps to have that as a basis. Where stunt performers are now getting an opportunity, as you were saying with Warrior and that, the second unit directing or directing and doing that sort of thing has now become a more prominent thing, because uh, like you said, people are starting to understand that in order to do what we do, it's not just understanding the physicality, but you need to understand the script and how to direct and how to film and how to position everything to tell the story is just as much a part of our job as it is with the directors and the people on those side of things. So I think it's getting more recognized as a skill.
Mm. Do you see that in your future? Maybe doing some directing, doing some in front of the camera work, behind the camera work like that, writing, directing, anything like that?
My The way that I like to look towards my future is the stress of directing is quite something, and it takes a certain person. Me, I've always been a fan more of choreography and of training. I
Mm.
like. I've always found more joy in taking actors that don't believe in themselves to do something, and within such a short space of time, getting them performing and feeling comfortable on screen. So in the future, that's more where I want to head towards, is helping not only actors but other stunt performers and things like that, getting more comfortable acting, stunting on screen. So combining the two is kind of more where I want to push towards.
Hmm. Okay. And you mentioned, obviously the dangerous nature of stunt performance. We see it kind of a lot of that. There was that incident with Alec Baldwin
Yeah.
on the set of the movie. It was called Rust, I believe it was the movie called. And then there was another case. I forgot the movie the woman was working on, but she had lost her arm.
Oh yeah,
Um,
friend of mine. She was working on Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's South African. She is a friend of mine from the industry, and yeah, during that incident, she did lose her arm, and it was quite severe. A lot of spinal damage, a lot of recovery for this. Um, these are very real things that we face every day. A lot of the things we do, if something goes wrong, it goes very wrong. Like, not even that long ago, I was on a film set where we were preparing a car to get exploded and that, and the communication was bad, and people were still standing around the car not knowing that someone was prepping it to get exploded, and something went wrong, and all the petrol ignited and ended up burning someone quite severely and a couple other injuries around it. So these are the things we face. We acknowledge that we have danger around. We try keep it to the absolute minimum. There's a lot of safety protocols put in place to make sure that these things don't happen. But occasionally it does, and that's what kind of makes our job worth what it is, because we do put ourselves in situations where it's you never know what's gonna happen.
yeah. How common would you say that is? Just on-set injuries. How common would you say?
It's an odd question because I would I won't say that injuries are not common, because injuries happen in our line of work. The severity of it is different. So something like death is not something that happens very often. It is mostly freak accidents or things that like was an overlook on someone else's safety aspect or things like that, and it's very far and few between. Injuries, on the other hand, those happen quite on the regular, because
Mm,
it's the job we do. It's like any sport professional, they get injured, and you hear about it more with like soccer players and things like that. You'll go, oh, they injured their shoulder or whatever. We just don't say it. We just carry on working, because we don't care whether we injured or not. We just go.
yeah. And you guys, a lot of stuff where you don't have health insurance or anything like that, right?
Well, we do to some degree. So, in order, when we get hired on a set, we sign our contract, and part of that contract covers us for an insurance. I will say, and this is a thing worldwide, is that the insurance that covers stunt performers is not the best. but it does tend to cover for most of things. We struggle a lot with loss of earnings because we have to prove things and stuff like that. But in terms of getting actual medical, like a normal medical that you'd get as a person, that becomes a lot more difficult because we sit in such a high risk category that most stunt performers don't have their own medical aid because the payment is too much.
Hmm. Okay.
And we can't exactly pay that. When we work, we covered. When we're not working, we're not covered. And we've tried in South Africa previously to combine the two, and it ended up really bad with a lot of things going off. So we kind of opted for taking it a little bit more separate.
Yeah. So in this, kind of actor strike going on, and stunt performers kind of included in that, as far as trying to get better benefits, better pay,
Uh,
better working conditions.
the stunt performers are kind of kept a little bit outside of this, at least in Europe side and Africa, because we are very much freelancers. So we don't need to reside by many of those sort of contracts and rules. But in the States, you have to be part of a certain organization in order to work as a stunt performer, and in other countries as well, like the UK, and you need to be part of a registry, and there's all other politics that go into it, which is why they would be more affected. But as a freelance stunt performer, I don't have one country or one person that is uh, controlling how I get my work. So I can work wherever I want, and I'm not too limited by that strike, other than the lack of work.
Right. Yeah. Because obviously, actor strike and no work for stunt performers there,
Yeah.
in America there. Roll it back a little bit, back to the beginning a little bit. I was looking at another interview you did, and you said one of your big inspirations was Jackie Chan,
Oh yeah.
who big inspiration there for you. So that's kind of how you basically just was fascinated by stunt work, just watching him, watching the movies he did. Do you have a favorite Jackie Chan film at all?
Oh, I can't even mention a film because like, okay, so if I had to say a film that I really enjoyed, shit. Uh, I like the sort of drunken master, the very old traditional kung fu style of his films. But when I think of his stunt performing and things that he's done, I look more into his more modern films because he kept testing the boundaries of stunt performing, and his way of being parallel to Buster Keaton was it was something I admired in him. Um, um, do you know of Buster Keaton?
Yes. Well, I know of him through Jackie Chan. I know of him through him.
Yeah. So yeah, because of that sort of thing, being one of the more foundations of where stunt performing came from, I can really appreciate how the evolution has gone, and I feel he was a very key component in transferring that into the modern world, as opposed to keeping it to the sort of traditions of the old world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I guess when you look at it, Jackie Chan was one of the big OGs of it because he was, a small time stunt performer. He was in Bruce Lee movies, and then he transitioned to being a star in movies of his own. Like you mentioned, Legend of the Drunken Master, Rumble in the Bronx is another one that was very big. We talk about his older movies. Are you talking about things like The Foreigner, where that kind of something newer like that?
Yeah, I think I'm very difficult with names. I mean, I'm very bad with names. It's one of my worst traits. But I I remember as a kid I would watch his movies that were definitely made long before I was born. Not long, but you know what I mean. But there were a lot of these aspects from these old martial art movie style, and what he brought to it was the one thing that I feel. lacks a lot with people in this industry is fun. He just had fun. He every time you watch him do his martial arts, there's an aspect of comedy to it, and it's something that I've always brought to my performance as well. I work at things looking realistic and looking like, you know, you're getting really hurt and stuff like that. But the comedy aspect is something that I find really funny. As I'm looking at this video right now, keeping your eyes open while being dragged across the floor is
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. But yeah,
Uh, and I'm showing, in case anybody's just listening to it, so I'm showing a reel that you have on YouTube. I saw it there. That's basically a cut of this is from 2009. I mean 2019, where you got a cut of some of the movies that you've been in, showing like a little reel here of all your stunts. So this is one from Mad Max Fury Road you got here. There was also one from Tomb Raider, the newest one with Alicia Vikander that's in here as well. Yeah, so you're doing kind of various, showing off things, various like here. Okay, yeah, doing some parkour here. Yeah, very very nice.
that
uh
was a stunt for me. You saw that one where I got thrown out the car in Mad Max.
yeah.
So
uh
a little story about that one was quite funny. Is it's as real as it gets. My hands were tied. I was at the edge of the door, and they had to get to a certain speed. And at a point, I got to fall out this thing. So, because I was a little bit scared before the stunt, I just said I had one of my mentors there with me, and I told him, yeah, just say when, and I'm going. Just, I'm not even gonna look. I'm just gonna go. And we did this once. We did it twice. On the second time, I had gotten up, and like at no point did I feel I was in any pain or anything. But I remember getting up and going to get a bottle of water because I had a bit of sand in my mouth, and the medic starting to talk to me. And it was in a moment that I realized I didn't remember the entire day or anything. Everything was completely gone. I was completely like out of it. The fun thing about stunt performers is we really don't care about that shit. So basically, they told me, "Oh no, you need to go home. You've got knocked out. You need to like take a break." And I was like, "Yeah, but I got a scene coming up." And they said, "Don't worry, we'll replace you." And I said, "No." And basically, the scenes that you see where Nicholas Holtz is running, where he's kind of chained up and running after the war rig, I did all of that with a complete concussion, not really knowing exactly where I was, but me wanting to work was so hard that I was like, I don't care. I don't care where I am. I'm going to do the job. And basically, that's kind
wow.
of part of stunt performer life. I have had a few concussions and a few things like that throughout, but most of the time we don't take our injuries too seriously. We just kind of go with it and carry on, unless something is obviously worth medical attention.
Yeah. You mentioned that, so you had a kind of a mild concussion there. I don't know, mild, that would categorize. I mean, if you can't remember the whole day, I don't know if that means mild or a
Yeah,
severe
that was
concussion, but
solid.
what are some of kind of the worst injuries you've had doing stunt work?
I knock wood. Been very lucky, not lucky, but I like to consider it the fact that I put so much time and effort into learning how to not get hurt that even in a dangerous situation, I end up relatively okay. My biggest injury at the moment has been I've had two operations on my knee for the cartilage. None of them directly stunt in like related. Like I wasn't on a movie when it happened,
Mhm.
but they happened due to repetitive work and injuries, and I just kept tearing the cartilage until now I got about half of it left. but I maintain and I try keep everything strong. Otherwise, in terms of injuries, it's, I mean, a beautiful one for Warrior was one of my good friends that's also performing in Warrior. She plays Lai, the character Lai. Um, Now she's a friend of mine, and she's a stunt performer by trade, and got this acting role on Warrior. And on the last season, we were in a scene where I was playing a person within a brothel, and she came in to avenge her Chinese people and proceeded to slice us up. But in the moment, she ended up actually slicing my entire lip open. And I know
Ooh.
it's very hard to see because the lighting's a little bit shit here, but I'll forever have this scar going down my lip, how I got sliced with a sword basically across the face. And at that moment, it was like, okay, stop the bleeding. And my boss just said to me, can we carry on shooting? I was like, yeah. So they basically just taped it up, and we carried on shooting until I could actually get to hospital to get my lip sewn back together.
Oh, gee.
But
Okay.
yeah, these are the type of injuries we have, but we don't take it too bad. We have to, I don't know. I think as a stunt performer, you need to kind of have a bit of resilience to these sorts of things, because it's gonna happen. But we love our job so much, we want to rather get the shot than worry about, like, oh, I've spent many a time going, oh, I'm bleeding on your set, instead of going, I need medical help. So I think that's a little something about our stunt performers, that we feel passion for the project.
Yeah. And the character you're talking about, yeah, she's the woman with the bangs, and she's the woman that, yeah, with the sword and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's a big avenger of the women in the show.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you hear stories about like some stunt performers, like how the stunt work can kind of just go too far. Because I think it was in the raid where a lot of people, they were just going so fast, and everything was just moving so fast that they actually just end up just getting into real fights and everything like that just on the set, because all the whole kind of stunt work and everything like that. So that stuff kind of happens a little bit, like when you're doing like the kind of that fight choreography, just going so hard, it's just like, yeah, people get, hit in the face and punched and sliced open and things like that.
Yeah, that is, it is actually a real thing. It does happen. We, I don't like to think of it as like a hyped moment where, we just end up getting aggressive. It's not that. But in the moment of the scene, sometimes the distances are off or things like that, and people do get hurt. Our general rule is you don't say anything unless you need medical attention, or there's like a genuine need to stop the cut. Otherwise, you carry on with the scene until it cuts, and then you go sort it out. um, I mean, even in that particular bar scene that I was doing, where the jaw gets broken and everything, there's a guy that gets punched by Leary. And in reality, we shot after that had happened. Like, we shot in a different order than what you see in the series. And luckily we did, because when we did that shot, he accidentally lost distance, and there were multiple reasons because of it, but they lost distance, and he ended up punching him in the side of the head with this massive metal ring. And they cut just before you see it, but he knocks down, goes to the floor, and then he starts standing up in the middle of the shot and does all kinds of things. And only after they yelled cut did we realize that this guy is completely knocked out. And straight to hospital vibes sort of thing. Like, we took him out and got everything sorted. But these things happen, and it is part of the job, and something that we accept, I guess.
Mm. You mentioned, watching kind of the footage afterwards, after the stunt is done. How much coordination is there between the stunt performers, stunt coordinators, and like the editors, the director? As far as like it's like some of the scenes, it's like, as a stunt performer, can you go like, that I don't think that looks particularly that good. Can we, do it again? How much coordination is there between those elements there?
So there's a certain limit and a line depending on how uh, good you are or how well you are known. So, as a stunt performer, I perform the stunt and I wait to get the feedback. And either the director or my coordinator will say, this and this and this, like you need to fix this, or you need to get less on this and do this. And I do it again. When I feel I haven't done a particularly good job, I have little say unless I'm in a certain position to go, let's do one more. Because one more costs a lot of money. So we try be perfect at all times. It's something that makes the job of being a stunt performer a lot more stressful, is because it's not a case of, oh, we just go again. It's a lot of the time you got to be perfect this time, because we're blowing up things. We like resets for most of the scenes take between 25 and 40 minutes for
Mm,
every scene. When there's gunshot, if someone gets shot, that's an explosive. It's a whole thing that they attach to somebody. They make sure it's safe. They do all of that. That takes a lot of time. So as a stunt performer, you don't mess that up. You have to get it right every time. So that's the sort of stress of stunt performing, where you know whereas with acting, with dialogue, you can, oh, sorry, I messed up that line, let's just go back. If an entire thing has just exploded and you messed up after that, yeah, it's not that easy just to go back.
right. Yeah. 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 A lot more work that kind of goes into it there. Um, a little bit, get some more personal information about it. So when you're not doing stunt performing, what are you usually doing?
Oh, if I'm not performing, so I've been working mostly full time, so generally I am stunt performing. I'm not a sports extremist, so a lot of other stunt performers, they like to go um, surfing and skydiving and these types of things. I'm a little bit more reserved in that sense. I'm more of a nature person, so I spend most of my time just hiking and enjoying life as I can. Pretty much, I'm not too much heavily focused into sports. But one of the aspects I always have looked into and studied is, I always look for more information about weaponry, about swords, and about this sort of thing, because sword work and the art of that has been more focus, or something I've always been interested in. That and basically movement. So my whole stunt career started because of my obsession with moving, with using the body to its absolute capacity to in every which way. And from there, I started getting into parkour and freerunning and all of that. And I ended up teaching in schools and other things until I eventually got into the stunt work. And
Mm,
when I did, it filled that need for movement and acting, which is because I also come from a theatre background, where that's where I studied to do theatre acting and all of that, and I specialize mostly in movement theatre.
mm,
And I think that really helped a lot in the stunt industry. And I think anyone who wants to get into the stunt game also needs to understand movement theatre and acting as a big prerequisite, because a lot of stunt performers I've seen, you can do the physical, but the acting side is what will set you apart. So if I believe if anyone wants to get far in this game, it's a combination of acting and physical performance.
Mm,
Because anyone can take a hit, but not anyone can act you taking a hit.
mm. So, uh, I'm gonna ask you kind of a two-part question here. So, you think you mentioned how some stunt performers, in their off time, it seems like they mostly are like you would say what adrenaline junkies. You think like kind of like maybe NASCAR drivers or F1 drivers. They like to do a lot of that stuff. You think that's kind of like one of the things that makes someone a stunt performer is being kind of like an adrenaline junkie. You think?
So it's weird because a lot of the people that are stunt performers, they are adrenaline junkies, but not in the typical sense. Because anyone I've met that is an adrenaline junkie that is going into stunts, the mindset is so different that it stops them from learning properly. The reason being is because as a stunt performer, you take that adrenaline on because you've calculated all the risks. Adrenaline junkies like the risk without taking in the factors of what's going on. So the difference between us two is that I put myself in a dangerous situation because I know that I've trained my way up to there to the point where even if something goes wrong, I know that I have another option. Adrenaline in terms of that's why I don't go bungee jumping or skydiving, because to me I'm not trained up in that, and if something goes wrong I have no out. But I do things like jumping off of buildings and getting hit by cars and get sliced by weapons and all kinds of things because I have I have the knowledge to be okay in that. If you want pure adrenaline, yeah, you go for the unknown. And a lot of stunt performers don't actually do that. They like a calculated
Mm,
adrenaline, calculated knowledge of what they're doing, but it's still dangerous nonetheless.
yeah. And another question I was going to ask, you mentioned like it would help as a stunt performer if you have a background more in acting and theater. You think that's what separates a good stunt performer from a bad stunt performer is that, you have more experience with the acting part and knowing how to, act like you've been hit. That's what kind of separates the two.
Yeah, 100%. Some of the hardest people to teach fighting, and I'm talking in terms of actors as well as background performers and things like that. The hardest people to teach are ones that did martial arts because they get set in a way that they have to work that way. And anyone who's done anything in acting teaches you that you need to be um, constantly moving, fluid in that sense, able to adapt all the time. And you can't keep rigid on one thing. So, yeah, the advantage if you go into acting prior to stunts is that you understand firstly what's happening. We're shooting a movie and you understand the acting side of it. So it helps you understand more what we're trying to tell because stunts, although it's seen as something spectacular, like an explosion, you see an explosion, it's like boom and wow. To me, stunts is art, it's like painting. I want to give an experience to the audience, something that they can feel and see. And when I can do that, to me, that is the art. It's not about, oh, it was so big and I was on fire and this and that. I want to tell the story through my movement. And that's where I differentiate the standard understanding of, oh, stunts is just guys with big balls fucking riding motorcycles over 10 buses. There's no story there. I like to tell the story, and that's why projects like Warrior, like Mad Max, like Resident Evil, like Wednesday. I mean, in Wednesday, I had the opportunity to be a character. I acted as a character as the Hyde monster, because the physical movement and everything, I did the CGI and I did all of that. The opportunity to do that was, you need to understand the story, you need to understand all of that to create the physical character. And there were auditions, there were different people that were opted for it. And yeah, I feel because of my understanding of the movies and the characters is why they opted for this as the option. And yeah, I think stunt performing is as much acting as it is stunt performing.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I fully believe that. Um, any movies that I mean you haven't been in that you look at and go like that's some pretty good stunt choreography? Do you kind of analyze that when you see a movie or show? Good, bad
Oh
stunt.
yes, oh god, yes, that is the. It is my biggest downfall, unfortunately. Actually, I struggle to watch movies because if I watch something that's action based, I feel like I'm watching work. But there has been occasional movies, and I can't even name them. But there's been certain things where I've seen someone getting hit by a car or doing a certain fall or something, and I go, holy shit, I know that that's the person did that. He fucking hurt so bad. Yes. And I give mad respect to those people. Like, that is one thing that excites me, is because I know I'm the guy that's gonna like not give a shit about myself and go fuck myself up to get the shot. And when I see that in a performer, that I love. This is why I struggle a lot with the superhero movies and that, because I know how they made and I know a lot of the CG side of things. And there is very hard hitting stunt performers there. I will never say they're not. But I know a lot of their stuff is very controlled through wires, through padding, through all of this. And they have a luxury that we don't have. Like, coming from South Africa, we don't have the luxury they have in in America, where they actually have proper mechanics, uh, not proper mechanics. They have the right machines, they have the padding, and they're willing to do that. South Africa, we're a little bit more rudimentary, but we've discovered a good way and safe way to do it, and I've discovered that around the world. But yeah, I think I appreciate stunt performers that when I watch a movie and I see someone that like actually did it, that's good. But I generally can't watch action because it's like watching my own job. It's boring.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Any recent action movies that you can name that you thought like you had that feeling of like that was really good? Any kind of one there?
I'm trying to remember. Um, I'm trying to remember one thing. I do remember seeing someone getting completely beat up, but I honestly don't remember the name.
Mm.
What? Mm, no, I can't say there's been a movie where I sensed. Oh, they made that movie recently where all the other stunt guys were talking about it. Where basically the whole movie itself. Uh, anyway, yeah, I'm not good with names of movies, but I know there was one particular movie that came out recently that we consider it. We call it stunt porn. It's something that you can just watch and like enjoy, because as a stunt performer, you like to see people doing their job well.
Okay. Huh.
I swear to God, I wish I could remember the name, but unfortunately, yeah, I'm not very good with names.
No problem. How do stunt performers feel about like actors like Tom Cruise who, does stuff like hanging off a plane or, jumps from building to building and breaks his ankle or does stuff like that? How do stunt performers feel about actors who do that?
So they shot the Mummy. They shot that in Namibia, and some of my guys got to work with them. So I got to hear a little bit more about him as a person in that. And honestly, like people like Tom Cruise, we have no problem with, because the difference is he wants to do it himself. He will do it himself, but he never neglects the stunt crew. He made sure that every single person in the stunt crew he stood with and took a picture with, and like said something to them and whatever. Like he did that. I appreciate actors like this at any point. If an actor wants to do their own stunts, by all means, we encourage, as the stunt performer or as the double for the actor, your job is to make sure your actor can do as much. Like if they can do 100% of it, you've done exceptionally well.
Mm,
But our job is to always get our actor to be able to do everything.
yeah,
And when an actor actually goes and, no, but these people also helped me and did everything, we love that. Tom Cruise, he actually does do his own things. He's good. Like he does his things. So I appreciate that in an actor. I'd
mm,
rather them do it and then say, "Yeah, I did this," or can show the X-rays to go, "Oh, I broke my ankle when I did that jump because I thought I could do it, but I didn't," and it's fine. I don't like actors that say they can do everything and whatever, and they end up getting injured and what, and they never mention the stunt performers. They always make it look like we didn't weren't involved. I like to see stunt performers involved more in movies, or at least talked about more in movies because of this, I guess.
yeah. That's kind of good to hear because sometimes I know you'll see actors say like, "Yeah, I do my own stunts," and I think sometimes they get outed of like, "Yeah, they don't really do their own stunts." I think that happens quite a bit there. So yeah, it's good to see that Tom Cruise, for what is pretty much the real deal. He does really kind of do it, so that's pretty nice.
Oh yeah, and speaking from experience on the side of Mad Max, Tom Hardy was pretty chilled with his stuff as well. Uh, Most of the actors I work with, they're actually relatively good to try their own things, and most of them, the only reason they don't get to do their own stunts is because of insurance basis.
Mm, yeah,
So yeah, that's kind of why we have to do our thing to
yeah.
save that. Yes.
Have you ever had too much of a negative experience with any actor or anything like that? I don't want you to say any names if you did, but it's been for the
I
most part in
can't,
your yeah.
I can't say names. I won't, because just out of respect for whatever. I have had definite experiences with many actors, and that's why yeah, I'm very, I enjoy training actors, because I've seen certain actors who came in with the worst attitude and left happy, and I've also seen actors that I personally went, I hope I don't have another session with you because I don't want to be around you. There are different people, everyone has their personalities, their things, but yeah, there is the real thing of Hollywood, of some actors think they are too important. And
Mm.
when that comes forward, it's a very difficult place for a person working in the film, because you are bound by contract to treat this person with respect and to act like they're all okay. Meanwhile, you know that you just want to punch them in the face, and if you caught them in the street at night, you just take them out. But you can't. So there is definitely many actors that I could say they take their position and they basically shit all over it. And there is other actors that respect all aspects of the art of film and movies and acting and all of that. And I feel they need more upping in the world, if that makes sense. I feel they need a bit more respect, because a lot of the people that get the respect are not the people that actually put that sort of effort in.
Yeah. I know there was that. I don't know if you ever heard that story about Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man about Joel Manganiello. He tells a story about how the stunt performers there in that movie were like, "We'll pay you money if you actually punch him in the face. We'll pay you money there." And of course he was like, "Well, of course I didn't do that because if I did that, that would have broken his jaw and I would have been in a lot of trouble." I don't know if you ever heard that story before, but
I that's absolutely fucking hilarious. I That's totally something we would do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally. Like,
so yeah, that's kind of a
oh
nice
my,
thing there. Yeah. I mean, I think yeah, I pretty much asked you pretty much everything there that I wanted. I think it was wonderful talking to you. Wonderful about getting an insight on stunt performing and everything like that. Um, what do you think is the typical like kind of career span of a stunt performer? Like what's kind of the typical like career trajectory and kind of like there it kind of goes on.
so they all go on different journeys. It's Some people start early, like I did. I like I said, my first job started at 17. Like, but I had like finished all my studies. I'd done all my schooling, and at 17, I went straight into this. And during that time, I had for the first 5 to 6 years little gaps in between, but mostly I was working. And then since then, I worked near full time. Um, that's kind of one of the ways to go about it. But most people actually join when they're in their mid 20s. Now,
Hmm,
that comes from either exposure to other extreme sports, martial arts that got you there, or friends that you know and things. How long it can actually go for, I mean, we have a man in South Africa we call Uncle Mikey. He's at this point probably around 56, 57, but he looks like, at well, at his age now, he looks like a 32-year-old strong ass motherfucker. Like, he is just built of muscle, and his attitude. He's a very sweet guy, and that. So I can't put an age to anything. The age is really determined on you, because there's other people that in their 40s will quit and never go back to stunts, and there's other people that can carry on for much longer. There's no age limit to where you are. I think the limit is in your own head.
hmm,
And I think as long as you keep strong in your brain and keep young in your brain, you're going to be able to keep doing these sort of things.
yeah.
So it's never too late to start, it's never too late to end.
Yeah. And you mentioned so good background for people if they want to do some performances, do kind of acting, do the theater stuff as well. Is it kind of a connection based thing too, in order to like really like get your first gig in movie or show? Is it like kind of linking up with like I know this person knows this person kind of situation, a lot of connections?
So there's two parts of it. That is a definite part of it. As a background performer or anything, your biggest asset is learn set etiquette. Because if you know set etiquette and you know how to deal with people and you know where people's departments lie, all of a sudden people will treat you with a million times more respect, because in the film industry, background is generally treated incredibly bad. Um, uh, but there is two and two to that argument, and I don't exactly want to get into that argument, but there is the biggest asset you have is to pay attention, to listen, to make sure you understand exactly what's happening at all times, and to not talk out of turn. And with that, even if you're starting at the lowest point in this industry, you can make it wherever, because people are all about respect in this industry. And you just got to understand where their idea of respect and hierarchy is. So, yeah, as a new person in the industry, I would say your biggest bet is to listen. And there's one key thing that anyone can take from the industry is learn to eavesdrop, but respectfully, and that will take you so much further.
Nice. Thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on. Thank you for making time. I know it's almost probably midnight there for you already there.
Good.
Um, yeah, so that's pretty great. Anything you want people to find you, want to promote something like your stunt company, anything like that, before we hit it?
Yeah. There's one thing I would say from this is that in my stays in Romania, Nat, I am taking half and half a break from performing versus wanting to live my life as well. And as part of that, if anyone does want to contact me in terms of training and online sort of things where I can give you information on how to train or how to lessons, whether it be in acting, performing, things like that, by all means, anyone can contact me because this is something I'm open to as a part of the new career I'm starting, where I want to teach people more and I want to work more in that aspect. I'm still going to carry on in film, but teaching is becoming something I'm enjoying. So, yeah, if anyone does want to contact me, no worries. We can chat.
Yeah. And is the best way to do that through your IG, or do you have a email or anything like that?
Um, Email is very easy. It's my name and surname, Daniel Himschoot at gmail.com. But through Instagram, which is, I don't know if they can find it off you, but it's Danny underscore boy underscore stunts.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, email's always good because it's fairly simple. If you know my name and surname, you just Daniel Himschoot at gmail.com. I was impressed that you were able to say my surname correctly, or at
Yeah.
least more correctly.
Yeah. So I said, what did I say at the beginning? I said Daniel Himshoot. Is
Yeah,
that what I said? And that
yeah.
was kind of correct, or was that not correct
That
enough?
English correct version. I love that. Um,
Okay.
because it's kind of it fits into the stunt thing.
Okay. Nice, nice. Yes, I'll make sure to put your information below. I'll make sure to put your IG and your email below just in case we wanted to contact you after this. Yeah, so you're in your teaching mode right now. You're in that
Yeah,
right now. Okay.
I'm at the point I want to share more with other people. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was all I had for you, man. Thank you again for coming on. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you.
all good. And I'm glad you invited me. So, thank you.
No worries.